So it's a pleasure to be here with you all today, talking about team and culture, and really excited to have these two amazing leaders up here with me. I think, what's interesting as we think about women in leadership is that we have made incredible progress. There is no doubt about that. But Fortune 500 companies, only just about 10% of those are being led by women. And so incredible opportunity as we think about how we continue to show up, how we represent, how we build and create role models for ourselves and our team, and really create, really strong results-driven team that is supported with dynamic leaders. And so excited to talk to these two today. So we have Carson and Jodi Chisarick with us, which of course they got the intros early on, and looking forward to hearing a little bit about their journey and what got them to where they are today. And we'll open it up at the end for a couple questions as well. So feel free to keep those in mind. All right, so shall we get started, ladies?
Let's do it.
All right. So Carly, we can start with you, and maybe if you can just give us a little bit of background on you, your role, and the journey that you took in getting to where you are now.
Hi, everybody. I'm Carson. I'm the head of integrated media at PMG. We're a full-service ad agency based out of Dallas. I've been at PMG for about 9 years. When I started, we were around 40 people, and now we're pushing upwards of 700. And over that journey, I think what I've been lucky enough to do is build a high-performing team. And I think a big part of what took me there is this mentality of producer, leader, manager, and really understanding when you need to roll up your sleeves, when you need to be the doer on the team. And I think modeling that behavior is what has really created a scalable team. So that has been a very big part of my journey at PMG.
Love it. That's great. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Jodi Chisarick. I am the General Sales Manager of the Networks Division at Scripps Media. I've been at Scripps for a little bit more than 2.5 years. Back in January of 2021, during the pandemic, Scripps purchased Ion Media. And at that time, they brought two very different companies together. And I was brought on to head the division. And part of that was really building a team of people that came from different companies, different cultures, different sales organizations and ways of selling, and building one cohesive team. So, it goes a lot to what this topic is about the panel, culture and building teams, which we'll definitely talk about more. One other thing I wanted to say, as you were doing your intro, Allegra, and you were talking about Fortune 500 companies and only 10% are women, I did an interview about 1.5 years ago, and I said, it's amazing. The 4 major broadcast companies are all run by women, the ad sales division. And 1.5 years later, we're going backwards a little bit, because as some of the women have been moved out of their positions, they've been replaced with men. So hopefully that's not a trend in things to come.
No, well, thank you for that. And maybe just to build onto that first question, maybe tell me a little bit about how you each think about your personal brand and how that shows up at work, and whoever can start.
So I was thinking about this a lot, because obviously we did a prep yesterday, and I was like, building my brand. How do I build my brand? And the obvious answer to me was be authentic. I have to be authentic in who I am, which, that comes with the good, the bad, the evil, the ugly. My team has seen all sides of me. I pretty much wear my heart out on my sleeve. But when I thought about it more, it became more about self-reflection, and always having self-reflection and what can I do better? What can I do differently? And I apply that to all aspects of my life, as being a manager, as being a wife, uh, as being a mother, as being a friend. I always have to look at what I'm doing, and am I doing the best that I could be doing? And if not, why, and how, or how I could change and do better at anything that I don't feel like I'm doing my best at.
Love that. Thank you.
I think for me, showing up every day, I try to be the person that you can trust on a team. You can trust from the leaders above me, the team members who I may be direct reports, just being able to show up every day as the person who does what they say that they're going to do, when they say that they're going to do it, and really showing up and making sure that's a part of that rigor happens every single day. I think that helps build a leader in an organization. So kind of basing all things personal brand around, can I be the one that you trust in that room or in that moment?
That's great. I think, a little bit of what you both said, which is trust, transparency, and then I think just continue to refine and iterate. I would like to say that we're all perfect all the time, but we know we're not. And so I think continuing to learn about ourselves as we continue in our journey as well. All right, so my next question is, based on the success you've each had throughout your careers, tell us a little bit about how you think about leadership and what great leadership means to you.
I think some of my favorite qualities, and I think we've all been able to exhibit it, or hopefully been able to exhibit it more in the last 3 years, is really leading with empathy first. At PMG, we talk a lot about radical candor as the way to best deliver feedback, and doing that with kindness and with really caring about the people around you is really important. And I think that leading with empathy helps set the right boundaries. And I think a leader a lot of times should be the one to help set those boundaries for your employees and who may not be able to advocate for themselves in that moment. So I think that's a very big part of what we all need to exercise every day.
Yeah, I love that. We actually talk a lot about at McDonald's care and candor, so it links really nicely to how you're thinking about that as well.
So I agree with Carly, 100% empathy. There's a saying that we've all probably heard, which is leaders lead. And the saying is not that leaders manage. And there's a big difference between leading a team and managing a team. And I think for a long time, I was a manager. And I really had to learn how to lead and inspire and motivate. And inspiring and motivating and wanting people to do their best, not just for themselves, but for their leader and for their company and for the greater good, is part of leading and not just managing.
Yeah, and is that how you're thinking about kind of the definition and difference between the two? Is more about inspiration, building a culture of people that really want to kind of believe and follow in that vision?
Yeah, I mean, it starts from the top down. So Scripps is a very cultural-driven company. They're very employee-centric, similar to how you two were speaking about your companies. And it starts from the top down. And like I said, I think for a really long time at my previous places, I managed people. And it was a difference in the departments and the cultures at those companies as well. But leading, yeah, it's motivating people and inspiring them. And also what Carly said is showing up for people, whether it be your manager or the people that you're managing, and sideways, and your peers cross-divisionally, and your clients. So just being there and showing up and continuing to inspire everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think just knowing that people can count on you, I think goes an incredibly long way. So I think that's fantastic. So as you think about culture and the environment that you both create on your teams, tell me a little bit about what you think are the key components and, making that the environment and culture that is something that you're really proud of.
So I work in social media, and it's supposed to be fun. So it's really important to bring that every day. I think we all take ourselves too seriously frequently. So the internet can be a very funny place. And so encouraging the team to share and to collaborate and to take a break and go for a walk and find a meme that they think is funny, all of those things I think are helpful in creating an environment where we work hard, play hard, and that doesn't mean happy hours, but it means finding ways to relate, and finding those ways to relate through the work that we're doing, I think makes it even more powerful and sometimes a little less forced. So.
Great. I was listening to Wendy from Pfizer before, and I say to my team often, we're not saving lives. That's to your point, and I was listening to Wendy, and I was like, they are literally saving lives. So, it's just, culture is all about people working together and trust. Trust is such a big part of it. Respect, communication, like I said earlier, up, down, sideways. It's so important, and it's so important for people to want to be there. I mean, we at Scripps instituted a committee shortly after I began. It's called the Fun Committee, and because we couldn't come up with a better name than that. But it just celebrates the little things, and we also do volunteer work as a team as part of it. So it's all of those things together, and also, like I said earlier, it comes from the top down. If you're not working for leadership where culture is important, it shows.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think, both of you touched on fun and community. And I think how that then comes together to really create more of that supportive, collaborative network is very cool. All right, so now a tough question. Maybe share with us a time that you had to make a tough decision where there was maybe differing opinions in the organization, and tell us a little bit about the process you went through, how you navigate it, and the outcome.
I think it all comes down to compromise. So you have an idea, you strategize, you have a reason why you believe this is a good idea. And there might be other departments or other people that aren't on board, and they have their reasons for not being on board. So when I've come across these type of situations, I've had all my information, I've had all my research on why I believe that this is a good decision, and then compromise with what are the reasons that they don't believe it's a good decision, and maybe it doesn't look like what I thought it looked like at the beginning, but together, like you said, collaboration, together you come up with an idea that can better the business for everybody involved.
Yeah, I really like that kind of coming together to then find a solution that maybe meets both sides of the business or both perspectives. So that's great. Thank you.
I do think some of that starts way before whatever that final decision needed to be. I think sometimes it's how you show up every day then makes those moments a lot easier. Building that collaboration from the start then I think leads to less standstills and digging your heels in. I also kind of ascribe to the idea of having your own personal board of directors, those people who will tell you like, no, you're absolutely wrong. Like you are not seeing this the way that they are. And so having kind of your panel of people that you can sort of trust and go to sometimes helps you shift your perspective. So that way you're like, oh, that's not the hill I need to die on. So I think that's important to take a step back and figure out which hills are, none of them are probably worth dying on. So, figuring out which is important.
Yeah, good point. So this next question actually links into your point. So I actually think that creating a network around you, building those advocates and those people that you can really rely on and talk to and work through some of the challenges that happen within work is super important. So tell me a little bit about how you've built, fostered, and then maybe, what you think you could be doing more of in developing the community that supports you on your leadership journey.
I think it can sometimes come from unexpected places. A lot of times, some of my best mentors and advocates are people who I would have considered like a vendor, and taking the moment to, with every interaction, using it as a moment to learn something and connect with someone is really, really important. I also think it's important to show up and actually listen and try to understand what keeps your clients up at night, and how can you start to understand that to cater to those specific needs. But I think kind of making sure you just show up for those interactions is really, really important. And sometimes hard, especially with work and life and travel. It's tough to go sit through a long dinner sometimes, but it's important, I think.
Yeah, I love what you said about listening, because it's so easy to get distracted. And even this morning, I was walking up here, and I was listening to a podcast that I wanted to listen to, and I started thinking about the panel. And I realized I missed minutes of what I was listening to. It's so easy to get distracted. But I think that it also always begins with true curiosity in talking to people and asking questions and really, really being interested in what their answers are. And then you find that you have things in common, or you have things that you want to learn from those other people. And that could start a completely different kind of relationship with somebody.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too, just thinking kind of beyond your network, as you both shared, and it's people that are potentially, closer in, but then also those that, where you least expect it. And I think just building that network of individuals that I think, will bring to you differing perspectives as well, which I think is a great thing to have. So a little bit around how you think about and kind of balance personal life and work life, and what are the boundaries that you set up in order to be able to do that successfully?
Such a loaded question. It's so easy, yes. I have 3 children, and my youngest is 17, and I thank God that my kids were older during COVID. Because to anyone out there that raised young kids during COVID and had to work and school their children, God bless you all, because I think that would have been my breaking point. It's hard. It's really hard. And for anyone to say that it's not, they're either miserably failing at one versus the other, or they're lying. I've been really lucky throughout my career to work for men and women who allowed me to build my career while also raising my family. I had flexibility before COVID, which was unheard of in a lot of places, and I knew then how doable it was, but nobody really wanted to listen to that. It's hard, and you just, one thing that I had to realize is that I was not going to be the best at everything every day. There were some days that I was really focused on work and had to be. And there were other days that there was no way I'm missing a soccer game. So it's kind of like setting your own boundaries.
I think in my experience is opposite. I had my daughter in March of 2020, so a wild time. But I was lucky because I got 18 months, almost 2 years of uninterrupted no work travel time. And so as the world opened back up and travel becomes much more of a requirement, especially in a remote and hybrid work environment, I think the boundary setting that has been most helpful is setting what the non-negotiables are. If I'm home, I pick her up from school. If I'm not, then that's fine, but figuring out what those little mini trade-offs are is really important. The other thing that I think I had to learn for work-life integration is finding when you work best. And sometimes that might mean showing up a little bit earlier because you know that you can have much more focused time for whatever a personal endeavor might be. And sometimes that might mean working a little bit on a Sunday evening because I know I can get more out of that hour. And so kind of figuring out that to build your own flexibility, I think is something that I do. I also think modeling those boundaries is really important for your direct team. If they see me missing daycare drop-off or pickup every day, they will not feel like they have the ability to set those boundaries for themselves. So I think it's important to model that behavior.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Setting boundaries and then modeling. So, all right, so this is our last question. So if you each had 2 pieces of advice, one for this audience and 2 for your younger self, what would it be?
So I just gave you my advice for my younger self. I wish I could have learned that rule that I can't be the best at everything every day a really long time ago, because I struggled.
Yeah.
I struggled when I couldn't make something at school, or I struggled when I missed a meeting. So that's the advice that I would give my younger self. What the advice that I would give to the audience, and that I give to a lot of people, is we're like lifelong learners. So no matter where you are in your career, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid for someone to think, oh, you don't know all the answers, because we don't know all the answers. And very often we could be talking with somebody who is more knowledgeable on something than we are. And there's nothing wrong with not knowing the answer and asking questions. And when I mentor younger people, it's a big part of advice. And when we sit in meetings or I'm at conferences or whatever it is, I'm like that annoying person that always raises their hand and asks a question. And it's not just to hear myself talk, because there are those people also, but it's because I genuinely want the answer to the question.
She stole one of mine. The thing I would tell my younger self is to say yes as much as you can. And if you say no, but I can't do that, but I can do this. And I think those are ways that you can find yourself in a new opportunity or in kind of learning something unexpected. I think sometimes diving in head first really can be an accelerator. So
That's wonderful. Well, thank you both. Really appreciate you both sharing your insights and perspective. And we may have time for 1 or 2 questions. Yeah.
Carly hinted at acting with integrity and accountability earlier, but I'd love it if you guys could just deep dive a little bit more in terms of how you reinforce getting your teams and fostering that type of culture of acting with integrity and accountability, and how that pays off when sometimes people see other people advancing in the workplace.
I think you have to model what you want, how you want your team to behave. I say to my team all the time, I don't have all the answers. I have ideas. If you disagree with my ideas, let's talk about it. I'm not the end all. We want to collaborate. We want to share ideas, and I think that's integrity and accountability, because I'm also the first one to say like, oh, I messed up. I'm going to give you a really boring example. Last week I was at a leadership conference, and we had to do a simulation, and I had to get up and present something, and I felt that there was something I didn't prepare my team for. And when we got back into our room, I apologized to my team. I said, I just want to tell you, I feel that I didn't give you guys the right direction. And maybe you felt that the other teams did better than we did, and that's on me. I took accountability for it. They didn't feel that way at all, thankfully. But they were also really appreciative of the fact that I felt that way, and I shared that with them. So I think it all just comes back. If you take accountability yourself and you show integrity, then your team is going to want to emulate that.
All right. I think that's a wrap. Well, thank you both so much. I appreciate it. Thank you to Jodi.